Good morning. Happy Monday. Still fun day. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Jabari here with Mark Zinno, Jared Smith. Guys, Zinno, I'll start with you. How was the weekend? College football week 5, NFL week 4. Some crazy stuff went down. How you holding up on this Monday morning?
Very profitable weekend. 4-1 on my 5 games on Saturday. And we talked about it on Saturday. I knew Arkansas was going to get mushed as soon as the public got on them as much as they did by Friday. I knew we were on the wrong side with that one, but we went 4-0 with our other ones. So very profitable Saturday. Backed it up with a very good Sunday. Put some money in my pocket this weekend. So all things good.
Gerard, how about you? Happy Monday.
Yeah, kind of an average weekend. I was against you guys on a ton of picks. So if you guys had a good weekend, inherently it was a bad weekend for me. The Ohio State shirt has been ordered for your Kansas win,
Yes,
even though Kansas
I
did
was
not
gonna
deserve
wait.
that game at all. But that's okay. Things happen. The game was played out. Kansas in the second half was brutal, but in the first half they did enough to win. We'll see how long the Kansas train lasts until they get derailed. I think it might happen this week against TCU, but we'll see. But other than that, yesterday was good. We hit our best bet with the Cardinals. Teaser got screwed on the last drive for the Raiders. Raiders win by 9, teased the Broncos to 8. So that was the only thing that prevented us from having a perfect day in the NFL column. But I feel like I had my caps right with the Cardinals game. I had some decent caps over the weekend, but it's already over and done with. I'm already on to next week.
We're moving on to week 6 of college football. We still got one more game left of week 4 of NFL. I was like, whoa, that's like weird. We one more game week 4 NFL. Moving on to week 6 of college football. Lots to get into. So let's get into it, guys. Let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports. NFL futures market. Let's start it out. We are now a quarter of the way through the NFL season, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. So Zeno, I'm going to start with you on this one. We're going through who you think is going to be your Super Bowl winner, who you think is going to be your MVP through a quarter of the season, and who you think could be an underdog divisional pick. So please go through your slate with me. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl?
Still back on the Buffalo Bills. They're the best team in the league. I don't care about the loss to Miami. It does not affect this team and how good they're going to be. They're going to win the AFC East, and they have the MVP on their team in Josh Allen. So I am going down that road. Let's go Buffalo, circle of wagons, all of that. Underdog divisional pick here. I got to go with the Dallas Cowboys. At 3-1 through their first 4 games without Cooper Rush, you're getting better than 3-1 odds right now. I am still not 100% sold on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, again, they're 4-0. They deserve all the respect in the world, but this is still a club that I think has some holes in it, particularly defensively. I know their offense is going to be very good, but that's the thing that makes me like Dallas because their defense is so damn good. And it's like we're not talking about Dallas as one of the best defenses in the league, and they are. And the fact that they've gotten through this stretch of 3-1 with Cooper Rush at quarterback tells me all I need to know about how complete that team really is.
Yeah, well, you might not be sold on Cooper Rush, but Jerry Jones definitely is. He came out and had some very intense statements after that game. Really excited about where this team is headed under Cooper Rush. No Dak Prescott. It is pretty crazy. I do agree with you, though. My Super Bowl winner is also the Bills. Like yesterday, it was a slop fest in Baltimore. Terrible weather because of the hurricane, and it's you can't overreact in a spot like this. They still came back. They won the game. It's a long season. They have a ton of injuries right now. Basically, their entire starting secondary and 2 of their offensive linemen, and it's just like they're still 3-1. They were out of it against the Ravens. And these types of games, I feel like strengthen a locker room where you come back in the second half, you're able to get it done. All they have to do for me is get to the playoffs and get some of their injured players back, and they're going to run right through this thing. Jared, I'm going to start with you too. Super Bowl winner. You're a little different than us, but I actually really do like this pick because I agree with your MVP that you have in your list right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Josh Allen and the Bills certainly are deserving of attention, but I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs deserve some attention as well. And I would say that of the 2 teams, Bills and Chiefs, I'd say the Chiefs are the more under the radar team right now because of, you're right, the attention that Josh Allen is getting and this Bills team is getting. I'll be honest. I don't want to say I'm concerned about Buffalo, but I am a little worried that they're not just letting Josh Allen rip. And Ken Dorsey's, at least, scheme through the first 4 weeks has been a little more conservative. Maybe that'll change in the next few weeks, and maybe we'll start to see Josh Allen push the ball down the field. But in terms of the nerd numbers, his air yards and his intended, deep threats have his ADOT, average depth of target, has been very low, very poor. Very well below where I see Josh Allen, his talent level. So that's something that is something to keep an eye on down the stretch. Patrick Mahomes has been fantastic in those categories this year. And last night was an incredible. I mean, you could tell he was out for blood last night after what happened to the Bucs in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. There was an element of his game last night that was elevated to the moment, and it was impressive. The Chiefs defense is going to be what hinders them down the stretch. The Bills have an absolutely better defense than the Chiefs do. But we'll see if that game is going to get played in Kansas City or in Buffalo in January. To me, that's the Bills-Chiefs, right? That's the game we're all hoping for, a rematch of what we saw last year in the divisional round, which was one of the best games in the history of the NFL postseason, perhaps. But that's the game to me, Bills and Chiefs. Those are hands down the two best teams, I think, in the AFC. And I really want to see that game. Hopefully in the AFC Championship game this year. But to me, those are the two best. But I'll give the edge right now, slight edge, very slight, to Mahomes and the Chiefs.
To Mahomes and the Chiefs. I love Mahomes for MVP. And sorry, my computer just cut out for a second. I don't know. My it's like the last day of Mercury being in retrograde. I feel like weird things are happening today. My internet froze. I think my face was like this for a second. So that's a good look for everybody. Sorry that you guys had to deal with that for a second. But I love Patrick Mahomes as MVP. Fastest player to 20,000 yards, past Matthew Stafford's record. People are worried about him when Tyreek Hill left. Well, guess what? Travis Kelce steps up, plays an even bigger role, cracked the top 5 for career receiving yards by a tight end. How do you feel about Patty Ice, Jared? Did I cut out? Were you talking about him playing or winning MVP? Why do you like him for MVP?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a package deal at this point with the team that finishes with the best record in what is hands down the more difficult conference, the AFC. I think the team that wins the number 1 seed in the AFC, I think that quarterback deserves to be MVP. That's just how I'm approaching those markets this year.
Yeah. Can I talk about an underdog division pick that you guys might agree with, might not agree with? What about Jacksonville Jaguars to win their division? It's an average division, right? Tennessee is really the only competition that they have at this point. And I said, I'm not completely sold on them through 3 weeks. I want to see how they play against the Eagles. To be honest with you, I know they lost, but they played them pretty well. And Trevor Lawrence has been really good for the team. No, he does not.
He thinks he is not. This is an offense that cannot score more than 2 touchdowns on their own. They can't. He is not elevating at all to this point. And when they don't run the football with Brian Robinson or James Robinson, sorry, got the wrong one. Their offense can't move the ball. I don't know why he doesn't take off and run more. That's my biggest perplexing thing. That's what he made his bread with in college, was taking off and running. I just haven't seen him make anybody better offensively on that Jaguars team. I mean, I agree with you. I think the Jaguars defense is great, and they have a shot to win the division. I don't think you're wrong about that at all. I just watched this offense, and it is bang your head against the wall, frustrating at times.
Yeah, I feel like the way, though, that they have it set up, it kind of fits into how Trevor Lawrence plays, and I feel like he's kind of fitting into their system. But you know what they say, defense wins championships and defense wins NFL divisions. I don't know if anyone says that second part, but their defense is strong. It's crazy. They have the second lowest number of points allowed in the AFC behind the Buffalo Bills. Something that you never thought. Jacksonville Jaguars have the second best defense at this point behind the Buffalo Bills. What's going on in Jacksonville right now? But I do think that they are an underdog divisional pick that maybe no one thought at the beginning of the season that could win their division. People were like, oh, it's going to be Tennessee. And that's basically it. So I really like the Jacksonville Jaguars here through a quarter of the season. So we'll see how it plays out at this point. Jared, you like the dogs with the Niners. Who let the dogs out on the West Coast?
Yeah, you might not like my play of the day later either. It kind of correlates.
I know,
to this.
And you might not like mine, but we can still be friends.
It's okay. We can still be friends. We'll see who comes out on the right side of it tonight. I think when you look at this Niners team, they're first in the defensive EPA per play through 3 weeks. Of course, we'll see what happens tonight. But they're ahead of the Bills, they're ahead of the Eagles, they're ahead of the Jaguars, they're ahead of the Bucs. That's your top 5 right there in terms of the way I view the league, the top 5 defenses in the league. And the Niners are at the top of that list right now. They're fantastic defensively. They don't get a lot of recognition in that area, I think. I think a lot of the attention on the Niners is around the quarterback situation, and that's fair. I mean, most teams, the quarterback situation is going to draw a lot of the attention, especially when there's drama in the midst, like there is with this Niners team, with Lance to Garoppolo back to Lance. Now we're on Jimmy G. So it is a intriguing division because Seattle's down, and obviously the Rams are, I think, down from last year. So there's an opening here. There's an opening in this division for, I think, San Francisco to reach out and grab it. It's not a huge underdog pick right now. Arizona's the other team that I think we can probably, I don't want to say throw away, but I don't put them in an opportunity to win the division. I think this division is a 2-team race, and I think if the Niners win tonight, that number is going to flip. So this might be your last chance to get the Niners as an underdog in this division before they win their game tonight.
I don't know about that, Jared. I don't know about that. I'm just going to say, I know you two are both against me on your play of the day. We're going to get into that at the end of the show. But I also want to talk about the winners and losers from this past week. So, like, we looked at an overview of a quarter of the way through the season, who we like, who we don't like, whatever. Winners and losers. No overreactions here, you guys. Zeno, I'll start with you. Your winner, because I actually really like this, and maybe I'm going to switch my winner to your winner, but I also have 2 winners. So, who's your winner?
Can't cheat after the exam's been turned in.
I mean, it's been done before. Maybe. I don't know. Actually, has it? I don't know.
Look, my winner is the Giants and Brian Daboll. Anybody want to know who the number 1 rushing team in football is this year? Yeah, it's the New York Giants, averaging 192 yards a game on the ground. That is miraculous, given this was an offensive line last year that couldn't protect Daniel Jones within an inch of his life and couldn't block anybody up front. And remember, for all this stuff about Saquon being like, Saquon played 13 games last year, folks. He wasn't as banged up as you thought he was. He was just in a really poor offensive scheme. And I say this routinely, and I say it more now in the gambling world than I ever have before, that coaching absolutely matters. All of it does.
Yeah.
And Daboll is an excellent coach. He's created a scheme that works. The Giants are never going to blow anybody out. And the Giants should not be really, in reality, should not be favored against anybody, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2 teams, one of them being the team they played yesterday. Other than that, this is a team that's going to be competitive in every single game because of their coach and because of their run game. If you can run the ball with this measure of effectiveness, you're never going to be out of a game. Unless you make mistakes early and get down 21-0 very quickly where you can't sort of run your way out of it, they'll always be involved in games. I'm a Giants fan. I am flat out shocked at how well this team has played over the first 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. I totally agree with you on that. They have looked really hello.
13-1 right now.
Oh, I was going to say, you want to know who else has looked good? Is your Seahawks at this point. Who the heck is Geno Smith? And where did he come from? Like, who took Geno Smith's body and, like, took it over and has been playing the way that he has been?
I mean, to be perfectly fair, I was on this show week 1 on Monday before that game, and I said, y'all hating on Geno, y'all writing Geno off, and he ain't right back. And he has shut everyone up this year. He was the number 1 quarterback on my nerd numbers yesterday. He lapped everybody. Everyone looked, in terms of the EPA and the success rate and the air yards. I mean, it's impressive. I don't want to say the Seahawks team is going to make noise in the division, in the playoffs. Their defense is atrocious. I mean, you saw how many points they gave up yesterday. But just a straight up winner, one human being yesterday who won more than anyone else. Geno Smith looks fantastic. He looks like an NFL quarterback. And again, maybe it's the Lions defense, but he's done it against other good defenses over the last few weeks as well, and he's been impressive. I know Zeno doesn't like this take at all, but the numbers say what they say. Geno has been fantastic.
It's not about liking or disliking it. I mean, he's played well over this stretch of the first 4 games of the year. Talk to me in the middle of November about Geno Smith, and we'll have a different conversation.
Okay. I like Geno Smith at this point, and I think that we know with the Seahawks, I'm actually going to get into I'll get in my loser. How about, because this kind of plays off of it right now, is the Broncos. Geno Smith is playing better than Russell Wilson for Seattle. Russ,
Not
I
even
don't think he's
close.
the answer for Denver. They're now 2-2 on the season. The Raiders were desperate and needed a win against the Broncos. I know that, but like Geno Smith has looked better for the Seahawks than Russell Wilson did over the last couple of years. What's going on? So in my opinion, the loser at this point are the Denver Broncos, between Nathaniel Hackett and his hacking up whatever he's doing over there when it comes to some of the play calling. And then Russell Wilson. Bye Broncos. I'm sorry to all my Denver people out there, but they're the losers here. For me, the winner is the Eagles, the only undefeated team in the NFL at this point. And I know, like, Jalen Hurts, he's just, I love how he's developed as a passer this season. He looks better and better every single week. And then you look at the Eagles and how they did in the trenches. And Jared, I know that you love the linemen. They dominated the Eagles, or they dominated Jacksonville in the trenches. They're the best team in the NFL right now, at least through 4 weeks. Tell me I'm wrong. One of you. Am I?
Not wrong to me.
It's a lot of silence.
I mean, I'll pull up the tiers really quick, and I'll let you know who was the best yesterday in terms of top to bottom, nose to toes, offense and defense. But I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think Philly defensively did enough. That game was a little bit weird. There was wind, there was rain. The Jags got off to that hot start, 14-0, and then just kind of put it in neutral for the last 30 minutes of the game. But listen, there's a lot of positive things happening with Philly right now. I mean, I bet them last week. I had it in the futures column. I have a slice of them now to win the NFC, and it's not as much about them as it is about the rest of the teams that are down, I think, in that conference. And I think their schedule is so easy that they're going to have the number one seed, I think, in the NFC. I especially if the Rams lose tonight and you know, Tampa Bay continues to kind of sputter a little bit. I mean, Green Bay was very fortunate to escape Lambeau against the third string quarterback with a win yesterday. There's not a lot in the NFC this year. So you're telling me an Eagles team that's 4-0 with the easiest schedule left remaining in the league, at least maybe not easiest, but top 5, they're going to be the number one seed. And I want that number one seed ticket in my back pocket when I head into the NFC playoffs, because you get a bye and no one else does. So I feel confident in saying that the Eagles will finish with the best record in the NFC in the regular season based off of all of those variables.
Yeah, I mean, with the Pats, guys,
Don't look now. The NFC East has a 4-0 team and 2 3-1 teams. Don't look now. It might be the toughest division.
Do you really, honestly, Mark, do you really believe in the Giants' longevity, or do you think it's the fact that they faced the Bears and the Panthers and the Titans as their 3 wins?
100%. No.
Yeah.
I believe in the Cowboys. I told you I do. That's a good.
The Cowboys have a legit defense. That's why they're going to be. That's why they deserve to be taken seriously.
I don't believe. I'm joking around about the NFC being tough. The Giants are. I mean, here's the thing. The Eagles have. They played the Commanders. They played one divisional game in the first 4 weeks. So, let's see how they get through their division first. I'm still
next
waiting.
2 games at Rams, at Eagles. We'll learn a lot about the Cowboys the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think, are we supposed to get Dak back this week or next week? Is it?
I don't know. I think. But here's the honest question. Do you want Dak back? I mean, Cooper Rush numbers right now are really good. And we talked about it last week. On early downs, he's a top 5 quarterback through his first 2 starts. And that, to me, is the more predictive of the 2 stats than the overall numbers. He looks good.
Yeah.
He looks really good.
He does. That's actually, I had a side note, a PS for my winner of the week. No overreactions. And I said, side note, PS, Cooper Rush and the Cowboys have been really good. They haven't really had a statement win yet, right? But their next 2 weeks, like you said, Jared, against the Rams, against the Eagles. So we can revisit this topic after next week and then after the week after that. But the defense being so good takes a lot of pressure off of a guy like Cooper Rush. He's still undefeated in his first 3 starts. Last time I checked, that's pretty good. The Cowboys ascending at this point, in my opinion. Zino, let's get into your loser after week 4. Who's your loser?
Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns. This is a team that should be 4-0. with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. You have the collapse against the Jets that really shouldn't have happened had they played that thing right. And furthermore, yesterday against the Atlanta Falcons, the Browns won in first downs, time of possession by 11 and a half minutes. They outgained the Falcons. They completed more passes. They were better on third down. They won every statistical category you need to win a football game. And they lost because their coach choked at the end. When you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and you have 165 yards in the game on the ground before your final drive, why are you throwing with Jacoby Brissett? Why? Like, I can't understand the coaching in this league sometimes. Those two guys were gashing the Falcons defense, and yet I understand you're in a 2-minute drive here, but you're afraid to go away from your bread and butter. I just didn't. He botched that final drive. I was at the game watching it. He botched the final drive terribly. Should have been in position to at least kick a game-tying field goal, and you put the game in Jacoby Brissett's hands. They should be 4-0. In reality, that should be a 4-0 team, and they're not, because their coach, who I think very highly of, I just think has botched 2 games for them.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of teams that the coaches have botched maybe a game or 2. Broncos, just saying. Speaking of another guy, maybe the Panthers and Baker are struggling right now. And I said at the beginning of the year, who is going to be the first coach that's going to be fired in the NFL? Jared, please say it louder for people in the back.
He deserves to be.
Yep.
The Panthers are inept on offense in every stretch of the word. They were the worst performing offense yesterday by far. Like, I'm looking at the tier, like the nerd numbers I look at every day does these tiers. And like everyone else, the offenses are kind of in like a sort of mini box, and the Panthers are like way on the other side of the graph. That it's awful. Defensively, they're holding up okay. Offensively, Baker Mayfield, I'm going to say it, is the worst current starting quarterback in the NFL. He's the worst of all of them. Every single one.
You think?
Cooper Rush, Geno Smith,
that bad?
All of them. He is the worst. He's worse than Justin Fields. That's what the numbers say. The numbers say he's worse than Justin Fields. The only quarterback grading out worse than him is Dak, who only played like 20 snaps, and then he got hurt. So I kind of put that aside. He's the worst. There's no other nice way to say it anymore. Baker Mayfield does not deserve to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. If I was Matt Rule, I would go to Sam Darnold immediately. I don't know how healthy he is, but you can't get worse than what we're seeing with his performance. And not only that, we're starting to see the frustration and the attitude seep out post-game. Does a press conference, got asked about why, hey, how do you guys respond to the boos and all that stuff? He's like, well, we scored a touchdown after they booed us. Hey, Baker, you were down 26-10. You scored a touchdown to make it 26-16. They weren't booing you because of the touchdown. They were booing you because you were down 26-10. So what you did directly after that they booed you is irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. So I just don't like the vibe in Carolina right now, and I think we're gonna see it. I think we're gonna see some changes really soon, either at the head coach position or at the quarterback position. Something needs to change, because right now they are, in my eyes, the biggest loser in the NFL.
Bad vibes and a dumpster fire coming out of Carolina at this point. Let's take it from men to boys, because another dumpster fire that we witnessed this weekend was Georgia for a majority of that football game. Weekend takeaways. What the heck happened? What was that? How did they have so many issues in the red zones? I'm going to start with you. I thought that they were going to lose to Missouri. We all did.
I can explain this for the second weekend. Look,
yes,
I'll say it this way. Nobody is going to beat Georgia except for Georgia. They are the only team in the country that can beat them. That's themselves. For the second week in a row, they made a ton of mistakes. Look, you go back and look at the box score of that game. Georgia outgained Missouri by over 100 yards in the game. They held onto the ball for 11 more minutes than they did. They outrushed him. Stetson Bennett threw for 300 yards. The box score said Georgia should have won that game by 3 touchdowns. What happened? They turned the ball over twice. They've got to get some execution issues cleaned up. They also set up for 2 field goals from inside the red zone. They've got to get some execution issues cleaned up. But the only team that's going to beat Georgia is Georgia. It's not as panicky and, after 2 weeks of lackluster wins than people think. Back in the Kent State game, they had 4 mistakes in the first half made by one player, Ladd McConkey. Fumbled a punt, fumbled the ball after reception, dropped 2 other passes where he was wide open to change the outcome of the game. So the margin for error kind of being a little bit slimmer at this level of college football than some of the lower levels. Georgia is not in trouble. There's no reason to worry about Georgia.
Yeah.
They're going to be fine.
I was at a wedding and I was like looking at scores because we're in the middle of dinner. Obviously, I can't have like my phone out just like watching games during the wedding, right?
Why not?
I mean,
why the hell
ended
not?
up doing it because I looked at the Georgia score and they're down
Come on.
10-0 halfway through the second quarter. And I'm like, what? It's also one of my best friends of 20 years. Like, if it's like a random person, okay. But it's like everyone that I know is at that wedding that I've like grown up with my whole life. But I did. I pulled up YouTube TV and I turned on the Georgia game and I'm eating my steak and watching Georgia getting hammered by themselves at this point. But a team, Jared, that I want to go to you that looked a lot better than they did last week was Clemson's defense. Last week, I said their secondary was absolutely horrible. I know Sam Hartman's a good quarterback, but he threw for 337 yards and 6 touchdowns last week against Clemson's secondary. They did a really good job of bouncing back and shutting down Devin Leary. The team NC State only finished with 279 total yards, 5.1 yards per pass. Their offense wasn't great, but they moved the ball well enough to get it done. Clemson did. Your thoughts on Clemson's bounce back after a 2 overtime win against Wake Forest?
Yeah, I mean, I think Clemson's the best team in the ACC. I don't think that's saying much, but I'll give them that. I think Ohio State right now is the team that I would be betting some chips on. Maybe not the team, but definitely CJ Stroud to win the Heisman. With Bryce Young getting hurt, with Georgia's struggles, and with J.J. McCarthy kind of being the only other player in the same realm because they will face each other head to head, I don't really see a ton of I mean, unless you want to give Caleb Williams the nod, but I'll be honest, I think USC, and we're kind of all in agreement there, is going to lose at some point. I don't really see any competition with CJ Stroud. I mean, as long as they beat Michigan in that final game, and as long as they go to Happy Valley and take care of business, they'll be a favorite there, probably by at least a touchdown. I don't see any competition for CJ Stroud to win the Heisman right now. I mean, he's just blowing through people, and he's without his best player in Jackson Smith-Njigba. That makes it an even more impressive performance. But my guess is you will start to see those odds become minus on CJ Stroud to win the Heisman pretty soon. I think at our friends, the Superbook, they already are. There's some other shops that are plus still, but I would be willing to bet as we enter that game at the end of October against Penn State, CJ Stroud will be the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. And that, I think, at the stage that we're at with the other teams in the field, that's surprising. But Bryce Young getting hurt, again, Georgia struggles. I think Caleb Williams is going to lose either at Utah or down the road at some point when that defense finally decides to pack it in. That to me is the more actionable thing that I would be looking at right now. I will likely be betting some CJ Stroud Heisman shares very soon. Probably the week of that game against Penn State, or maybe the week before.
Zeno, your thoughts just overall week 5 college football, your biggest takeaway? Georgia beating themselves, obviously. Clemson looked better. Ohio State's the real deal. I know I'm going to get into Kansas in a second, so don't say anything about Kansas here. But what is your biggest takeaway coming out of week 5?
Well, just to be contrarian for a moment, Jared, I don't know that USC is going to lose if they get past Utah. That's the one spot. If they get past Utah, I think they remain undefeated for the rest of the year.
What about UCLA? No shot?
No, I think UCLA is going to fade a little bit. Although UCLA is a perfect spot this week for Utah. I love UCLA this week at home as they welcome in Utah in a look-ahead spot against USC. More on that later in the week. That said, have we forgotten the statement win that Alabama just posted on Saturday already?
Yeah, Bama
for
looked
a team
good.
that we thought,
Bama's numbers were really good on Saturday. Really, really good.
For a team that we thought was going to collapse after their almost loss at Texas, and if Steve Sarkisian wasn't a putz, they would have beaten Alabama. But that said, Bama needed a statement win against a legitimate opponent, and they got it. On Saturday in big-time fashion. And very, very impressive. And they did it with a backup quarterback the entire second half. And, oh, by the way, Who knows what's going on with Bryce Young's shoulder at this point and where that whole thing is going to go. But, Alabama really
Backup
put
looked
together.
okay.
Yeah, Milroe. Milroe is his name.
He looked okay ripping off 75-yard runs in his first series.
And
They just have dudes on that team, man. It's unbelievable.
They do. And this Bama team may end up reverting back to, the 2009, 2012 Bama teams that just ran the hell out of the football and played defense. That's really where I feel like this whole thing is going, because they just don't have the horses on the outside like they did in years past. John Mechie, Jameson Williams gone. They don't have guys that replace them. That backfill is not there yet. Some of those young receivers may need another year to get to that level. So, but that was an impressive statement win by Alabama. No doubt about it, if you ask me.
I know Bryce Young at this point has a sprained right shoulder, is what Nick Saban said. I don't know how long he's going to be out, what that looks like, what the rehab is for that. But it will be interesting to see how things kind of progress this week coming out of some of these press conferences. Can I just brag for 1 second, please, guys? Can I just have my moment to shine? Kansas, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby. They are still undefeated. They are sitting at the top of the Big 12. They didn't even need the points to cover the spread when they won straight up in an absolute barn burner of a game against Iowa State, 14-11. College game day is going to KU next week, where they're hosting TCU, who just beat Oklahoma. Jared, I am so sorry that you were going to have to wear an Ohio State shirt.
You're definitely not sorry. You're definitely not sorry. Listen, a win is a win. I'm not taking away anything from the fact that I have to wear a stupid, Ohio State shirt on the show at some point this week. It has been ordered. Don't worry. It's being delivered. Once I wear it, it will be burned in sacrifice. But
the sacrificial lamb.
When I look at the numbers in that game, Kansas did not deserve to win it. They were completely shut down by Iowa State's defense. The handicap was correct. It's just Iowa State missed 3 field goals, and they lost by 3. So it is what it is. College kickers, man, 14-11. Love the final score, but you get your moment in the sun.
It's not just college
Kansas
kickers.
won the game.
It's all kickers. They're all the worst.
Did you see Will Lutz's double
They're all the
doinker?
worst.
Will Lutz's double doinker in London to lose that game. That sucks.
To be fair,
I know.
My handicap in the game was Kansas will regress on third downs. They were at 66%. They were 3 for 10 on third downs in that game. That the Iowa State defense would shut them down. They were outgained in the game 303-213, and they still won. So, again, the result is all that matters, but I don't think it's fair to say that Kansas outplayed Iowa State in that game at all. Mm-hmm. I think that game was a shit show, and Kansas came out on the right side of a shit show. Here's what I will say. I think I'm going to do a hot take right now, and I'm going to say at the end of the year, Alabama's defense is going to be ahead of Georgia's. I think Alabama's defense is better than Georgia's this year. And I think Alabama is going to win the national title, but based off of defense instead of offense, which is away from what we've seen. And because they have also the defense to shut down Ohio State and TJ Stroud. So there's my hot take after 4 weeks of college football. Alabama's the best team in the country, and it's because of defense, and they will have a better defense than Georgia at the end of the year. That's all.
Hot take for college football, but still. Also, how often do games end with a team scoring 11 points? That's just the weirdest team total.
Listen, I accept the loss, but the result was...
happened to the Niners last week.
I know.
11-10.
11-10. It happened twice within 6 days. What the hell is going on, football? The football gods are
idea.
Weird things are happening. Weird things are happening. I am so excited, though, for this Monday Night Football game tonight. The 49ers and taking on the Rams. The spread right now, the Niners laying 1.5, $1.50. Battle of NFC West rivals, one of the toughest divisions in football. The Rams totally redeemed themselves in weeks 2 and 3 after getting smoked by the Bills in the opening game of the season. Cooper Kupp's been good. The 49ers now 1-2. Jimmy G dropped his first game of the season last week, and he looked okay last week, 18 of 29, 211 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Horrible game against the Broncos, like we were saying, that 11 points, the 11-10 game that just all of us absolutely loved watching. But this game is going to be interesting. Zeno, how do you lean here? Because we'll get into my best bet of the day in a second. I'm taking the Rams straight up in this one.
Niners. Niners money line. Niners
You and
cover
Jared
1.5.
both.
I mean, look, you're not 70% of the public, 70% of the money has walked in on the underdog Rams here, and the line is not moved one iota. What does that tell you? That sharp money is still coming in on the other side, enough to keep this line right where it is. Follow the money always in betting. This is not rocket science here. Don't overthink it. And the Niners have pretty much owned this series over the last couple of years, both straight up and against the spread. And they've just had a better run against the Rams here. The more that Jimmy G gets reps throughout the week under center, the more the offense will smooth out a little bit and start to get a little bit more fluid and potent, if you will, than it's looked at least last week. But again, this is not a Rams defense that is anywhere near as good as that Denver defense they faced last week. So I think the 49ers will have a good measure of success tonight and win this game at home.
Jared, how do you feel? Because I know we don't want to get into your best bet of the day yet. Just like your overview on the Rams heading into San Fran, taking on the 49ers tonight.
Mark nailed it. There's really not much to add besides the fact that everyone is, I don't want to say that. I have no idea if the public splits really are going to be an impact on the game. Like, I think the public has won before this week. The public won on Saturday. So, the public wins, the sharps lose. It happens. It's not, that's not to me the most important handicap of this game. I think really it's the Niners defense against Matthew Stafford, and the reasons, and I'll get into why. There are specific reasons why he has struggled against this Niners defense in the past, and it's schematic. It's not random fluke. He struggles against certain types of defenses, and he excels against other types. The type he excels against is not the type that the Niners face or the Niners play. And then on the other side of the ball, the Rams secondary is really the concern here. I think the Rams will hold up fine against the run. They've held up fine against the run this year. They're actually one of the best teams against the run. And you would think that that's what the Niners want to do first, establish the run. But if I'm Kyle Shanahan tonight, I'm looking at it from the other way. I'm identifying the weaknesses in the Rams secondary, some key members out. Jalen Ramsey's looked, I don't want to say a little toasty, but he hasn't looked his usual lockdown corner self. And there are some other key pieces of that secondary out, most notably the other starting corner on the opposite side of Jalen Ramsey, David Long Jr., who is not going to play tonight. So as much as I want this to be like a pros versus Joes handicap, I think that's part of it. I agree with Mark, follow the money. That's always where I start my handicaps. But then you really start to dive into some of the guts of this game, and you can understand why the Niners have covered 5 straight in this series. It's just a bad – styles make fights. This is a bad style of defense that Matthew Stafford will face tonight. We'll see if they make adjustments. We'll see if Sean McVay, the wonderkin, can make some adjustments and change things up. But at its surface level, this is just a bad matchup for Stafford and this Rams offense.
Yeah, let's get into our best bets of the day. But first, guys, let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports. Go to superbook.com. Love getting some of those bonuses, $50. So make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Let's get into our best bets of the day. Zeno, I'll let you go first. I love the prop that you're doing. Big Debo guy, huge Debo guy. Tell me more.
Can't take any real credit for the prop on my own. I had to outsource this one to the prop queen herself, Ariel Epstein, who tipped me off to this one, so I'll tailor on it. Is Debo Samuel over 56.5 receiving yards tonight? He's averaged over 96 receiving yards the last 2 years against the Los Angeles Rams. Jared mentioned it before. The Rams pass defense giving up over 250 yards per game, bottom third of the league. Not very stellar. Kyle Shanahan should find his way to get Debo the ball through the air. The rapport with Jimmy G and Debo is certainly there. It starts to grow more and more each week. So we'll back Debo Samuel here over 56.5 yards tonight.
I like it. I really do. And I'm going to tail you on this too. We're just having a whole train that we're tailing right now. Jared, I'm going to come to you next, and then I'll rebuttal with mine, because apparently I'm like the public. If my friends all jump off a cliff, I'm following them and I'm jumping too because I'm on the Rams money line. But I'll let you go first with your 49ers pick. Dive deeper into it.
Well, first I'll give some props to Prop Holiday. He has a 3-star prop on the site today. I won't give it away, but he actually wrote in his write-up 2 units, which is his best bet of the night. So check that out. Also, Brian Prouty, D-backs Brewers run line on the site today as well. So there's a couple of 3 stars outside of what we're about to give you that I would definitely turn your attention to. All right. I'm laying it with the Niners tonight. I laid at 1.5, risking 1.5 units, which is kind of the base play for me on NFL sides and totals this year. We mentioned it during the handicap of the game itself. The Niners have covered 5 straight in this series. Rams offense, to me, is the crux of it. Matthew Stafford, 2-5 in his career against the Niners, 0-3 last year, 2-2 with Detroit in years past, which obviously don't really factor into this handicap. But the reason why, and I kind of alluded to this in our last segment, the reason why the Niners give Stafford fits is because they sit back in coverage and they get pressure with their front 4. They don't bring pressure. They don't bring the blitz. The Niners right now have the 3rd lowest blitz rate in the NFL. Well, last year, Stafford was the 2nd highest quarterback in EPA per play against the blitz. He likes him, Mahomes. Those are the guys that if you blitz them, they will burn you. The Niners don't blitz. They rushed with their front 4. They get pressure with their front 4, and they sit back in a shell coverage, and they make you dink and dunk them. Well, that's not what Matthew Stafford likes to do. He likes to be aggressive and push the ball down the field. He hasn't done that well this year. And Stafford's looked a little bit balky at times. Another thing to really factor in here, the Rams' offensive line is not playing as well as they've played in prior years, where they've held up okay with their 5 O-linemen against the base front 4 of the Niners. They're not holding up well, at least in the early stages of this season. They're about middle of the road in pass block and run block win rates. That's a concern because Bosa and Armstead and those guys, they will get after you up front. So if the Niners are going to be able to get pressure on Stafford with their front 4 and not have to bring an extra man into the box, I think that's going to make life really difficult for them. On offense for the Niners, I'm absolutely concerned about Trent Williams being out. That's the part of this that could completely wreck the handicap. Pressure on the edge against Jimmy G, and he just fumbles it away, throws a pick, and the momentum of the game swings in the favor of the Rams because of that pressure that Trent Williams usually would button up, but not so much. But to me, this Rams defense has graded out pretty poorly against the pass this year. They've been really good against the run, really bad against the pass. So we'll see if that regresses at all to the mean tonight. But to me, it's Jimmy G who has had really good numbers against this Rams team. His best game of the season last year was in this exact same spot. Monday night at home against the Rams, he went absolutely berserk. And we mentioned during the last segment that the Rams a little bit banged up in the secondary. David Long Jr. out tonight. They've got another backup corner and another safety that are nursing injuries as well. So all of those things combined, and then, oh, by the way, the public, you're right, is just piling in to bet the Rams, makes me think the Niners are the right side tonight.
So I'm just going to jump off that cliff with everybody, the public, myself, and I'm going for it. You mentioned tackle Trent Williams. This is like one of the biggest parts of my cap. This hurts the San Fran rushing attack, and also Jimmy G is way more vulnerable to a Rams D-line that already has 7 sacks through 3 weeks this season. Like, I'm worried about Jimmy G staying on his feet. I'm also worried about Matthew Stafford staying on his feet. That's the biggest part for me, too, on the Rams side, is their O-line has been such an issue. And, Jared, I know you say games are won in the trenches. I know their O-line has looked better over the last couple of weeks, but if the Rams want to win this game, Matthew Stafford needs to stay on his feet. He can't see the immense pressure to win this game. When he does, he throws picks. That's what he does best. He's really good at throwing interceptions when he's under pressure. But you mentioned that San Fran is a team that doesn't blitz much. They have the pressure with the front 4, and that's it. I think the Rams want to cement themselves in the top slot for the NFC West. This is the win for them to be able to do that. And getting it at plus money, yeah, it might seem like a trap. I know we felt like the same way about Arkansas, plus 17.5. But I also will say the Rams are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 Monday Night Football games, and they're 6-0 straight up in their last 6 road games. I really like the Rams in this spot at plus money. So I'm jumping off that cliff, baby, head first. Let's freaking go for it. Matthew Stafford's going to stay on his feet, and Jimmy G is going to be on his ass for most of the game. Also, I think my mic cut out during the read last time. So we needed to tell the people, boys, that Let's Bet It is presented by Superbook Sports. So make sure to go to superbook.com or download the app today, because this season we're rooting for safeties. And that's because Superbook is going to give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. All you got to do, place a $100 pregame bet on any spread, any total, and if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. Free money. So make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Guys, that is it. It is Monday. We got Monday Night Football tonight. The Rams heading into San Fran, taking on the 49ers. Lots to look forward to as we wrap up week 4 of NFL, head on to week 5, and then week 6 of college football. We'll have it all for you all week long, breaking it down for you. But that's it for us today. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith, Mark Zinno, Lojo, Lauren Javara. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's get it.